Hello. All right, we're just waiting for Tim. There we go. We're in the city. We're going to a developer pitch. I was talking to Tim Grover, and I've been watching a lot of his. There he is.
What's up, young man? How are you? Looking clean as ever.
Yeah, it's you. COVID's over. We're in the city. People don't want to Zoom anymore. They want to meet in person. So I've got the suit, the tie. We've got traffic outside. Where am I finding you? Where are you?
Those are all wins. Hey, I'm actually in San Diego. Look, how many people cannot get into those suits and ties anymore because of the COVID thing?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the beginning of COVID for me was definitely a lot of eating, because what else was I going to do? You know, I couldn't go anywhere, right? So it's like, I should probably have 5 bagels. But then kind of halfway through, it's like, now I'm gonna put this time to use. But thanks for being here, man. I've been following, your interviews and the podcast you've done for a long time. You've got incredible words of wisdom, and we've got a lot in common in terms of kind of mindset. So I thought it would just be cool to jam and chat with you a little bit. And your book, Winning, is insane, completely insane. And I love the one. I love the one for the I. It's good branding.
I knew you would get it. This would be like, this is a my guess is you're probably driving to your next win now.
I hope so. We're going to meet these Russian developers. So, I got to brush up on my Russian a little bit right before I go in there, but hopefully it'll be good. I try to, during COVID, everyone else could have stayed home, but we were in the city. We were pushing forward. We were still willing to meet people if we could, because your first impression is really important, right? It's your last impression if you're not careful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you never know what that first impression leads to. If you don't do it right, it's not going to lead to anything. And, when you talk about wins, that first impression has to be a huge, huge win. It has to be a huge win. And you never know what's waiting on the other end. You have no idea.
Yeah. So could you talk, one thing I was thinking about, because something I talk to people a lot about is like the difference between professionals and amateurs, right? The difference between like when you're an adult and when you're still a kid. In my mind, as I see it, comes down a lot to, the decisions you make and actually sticking to them versus sticking to how you feel, right? And you talk about that a lot. Can you talk to me about the thoughts about, selfishness and how that goes into how you need it to create greatness, and like mindset over kind of emotions, which you're far more eloquent on than I am?
Well, I have this thing. First, when did taking care of yourself become a bad thing? The word selfish literally has self in it. We just we like to use different words for it. It's money. If you say me time, now that's not considered selfish. So, but you're doing something for yourself. But when you say, hey, listen, don't bother me for this next. You take care of yourself, you will win, and your team will win. Now, there's the other side of selfish, that if you only win, that's a bad side of selfish. But if you the better you take care of yourself, the more time you'll have for your family, the better your family will be, the better off your friends will be, the better your team will be. You're setting a standard for your team to say, hey, listen, it's important for me to take care of myself. It's important for me to eat right. It's important for me to work out. It's important for me to get rest. This is why I can do all those special things, because of the things I do for self.
And do you think that, what role does being selfish and being humbly selfish, I might add, play in the mindset towards a winning mentality, right? Because like every day we wake up and we've got this race to run, and you can either run it like everybody else, you can run it with the intent to win. Is waking up selfish an important first step? Is that like the breakfast for a winning mindset?
Well, I mean, I always say the first thing you should do when you get up in the morning is the same thought you go to sleep with goes into your subconscious. So if winning or whatever deal you're going to close or whatever you want to do that next morning, whatever's important to you, that should be the last thought that goes into your evening, and it should be the first thought in your morning. So you can deal with the subconscious and you can deal with the conscious. That's selfish. That's selfish. That's going to better you. That's selfish. That's better your clients. That's better than selfish everyone around you. Now, if you go to sleep with a negative thought and you come in and just say, and I don't want to get out of bed this morning, that's when I say, listen, that's when your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. That's why I'll say the mind has to be stronger than your feelings. So what you have to do is, I always say, winners aren't heartless, but they use their heart less. As you look at feelings, keep you in bed. Feelings tell you, you know what, you don't need to get up this early. Why do you have to see that client? Send somebody else to do it.
Sure.
Your mind tells you, hey, get your butt out of bed. Get your butt out of bed. Your feelings make you overthink things. And how many times have you overthought something where you said, man, I should have done this, I should have done this, but your feelings are always, you start thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong. Overthinking, the art of creating problems that don't even exist. Your mind makes decisions. You just make decisions. And people don't want to make decisions anymore. Everybody wants to make a suggestion because a suggestion gives them an out. I just suggested that. People need to make, you and your team made a decision even during the time of the pandemic. We are still going to go see people if we possibly can. If they want to meet in person, as long as we're in the guidelines, we are still going to meet. That was a decision. That's a winning decision. It may not be a popular decision. All right. And that's what everybody looks for, because if you're looking for the popular decision, you're looking for a decision that's being made by feelings.
And I think the factor there that I think is super important for people to understand is execution, right? Because if you're making that decision, you're actually executing on something you've decided to do versus just making a suggestion, which is telling somebody else to execute, right?
Winning is all about execution. It's all about execution. And that's why I just said, listen, stop motivating yourself. Motivation is entry level. Motivation gets you feeling good. It gets you pumped up and so forth. But what happens when that sugar high goes away? You start to crash. All right. When you talk about yourself, when you talk about action is about elevation. And there's a huge difference. It's easy to get.
That.
It's so, listen, you can turn on millions of YouTube videos and get motivated. You can watch on Instagram and get motivated. That doesn't mean it's going to lead to action. Action leads to elevation, and that's what winning is about. It needs you to elevate your mindset. It needs you to elevate your game. It needs you to elevate your results.
Relevant, so feel free to ask them. But Tim, 1 second. You talk about I wake up super early. You're talking about first thing in the morning. I wake up at 4 and I go to the gym. Can you tell people how you honestly feel about that?
Well, here's the thing. People always ask me, what's the best time to work out? And I tell them, whenever you can work out. That's it. That's the best time to work out. If you're not a morning person and you say, I'm going to go to the gym, and you put in that's the best time for you to work out. That's what gets you your results. But if you're, I don't want to get to the point where now people think that sleep deprivation is a sign of success.
Sure.
It's not. If you can function and do those things at a very high level during those hours, that's more important. I don't want you to get up at 4 o'clock and do nothing for the next 3 hours just to say you were up at 4. That doesn't work. Your winning
Yeah.
schedule is different than everybody else's winning schedule. And what's important for you is the reason you were able to get up early, do your workouts, do all that stuff. It's because you have time for everything else. And I talk about this in Winning a Lot. If you don't manage time, and this is a lot of things that people do, and this is why they're stuck. You manage focus. And there's a huge difference between managing time and managing focus. People that manage time, they do everything at an entry level. They're trying to finish all these things. They're just trying to get them done.
Sure.
When you manage focus, you actually have more time. So when you get up, you say, hey, listen, I'm getting up at 4 o'clock. I have to be at the gym at this time. I have to be out at this time. So there's no leeway in there. Every single movement, every single minute that you're doing, you're managing focus during that time. And that allows you to get so many more things done throughout the day because you're focused on those things that are necessary, that need to get done. We all have distractions.
Like that.
We all have distractions. There's not a single individual that doesn't have distractions. But it's the individual that has the ability to jump from a distraction back into focus, go back and forth, and be able to stay in that focus state a lot longer than everybody else.
When do your athletes, and congrats on you got a new big quarterback athlete. You put in the video where you're making him you're doing the what is it, like the squat machine first. And he was moving so fast in that video. It's like the explosion, and then he came over and talked because you do the work first. That's so
always do the work first.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, when do most of your athletes work out? Are they like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. people just given their careers and how everything works?
Well, so it was funny. It depends on what time of the season they're in. Now, for them, working out, that is their profession. That is their job. That is the foundation that keeps them healthy. That's the building blocks. That's the roots. So we do recommend for some of the athletes, depending on what's on the schedule, to get an early start. So my new client, obviously, Russell Wilson, we start at 6 a.m. in the morning. But what he has to do is he has to have a hard stop by like 10 a.m. because they got these things called OTAs where they meet with the teams virtually and so forth. So we have to adjust our schedule accordingly to make sure we have everything in so he can be done at that time. So we manage focus during those 4 hours. Then he goes in, he does his meetings, he comes back, gets a little rest, and then we have another workout scheduled later on that afternoon or sometimes that evening. But that's his profession. That's no different than what you're doing is when you schedule, your high-end investors, your high-end developers at different times. Just like you're scheduling your things going that way, we're scheduling his workouts the same way to understand that's the path that he needs to take to get to more and more wins.
Got it. That makes total sense. And you've worked, and Russell Wilson's just one. I mean, you've worked with some of the greatest athletes of all time, obviously including Kobe, which I know you talked a lot about. Can you tell for viewers that are watching who might not be aware? There's a cool story you talk about with Kobe and your dark sides and the dinner you guys went to. Can you tell people about that?
Well, the first thing I want to tell everybody, we all have a dark side. And this is not about Star Wars. It's not about vampires. It's not about evil. That's not what this is. That's not what it is. It's something that's unique to each individual that keeps you going when nothing else will. It's a personality that's inside of you that keeps your fire lit. So what we did is, obviously Kobe had this thing called the Malba Mentality. And I try to tell people, Malba Mentality, it's not a mentality. It's a lifestyle. It's actually a lifestyle. So we went out to dinner. We went out to dinner one day and after a game, and it was just the two of us. And he goes to the hostess. He says, "Can I get a table for 4?" So I'm assuming, and we had never kind of discussed this. We kind of knew, we knew we both had one. And he goes, "Can I get a table for 4?" I assumed guests were coming, and so she gets us a table for 4. We sit down. We each order a drink, and he orders 2 more drinks, and it just sits them at the empty table over there. And 2 individuals that recognize Kobe, 2 gentlemen come over. "Hey, can you mind if we join you?" And Kobe's like, "Listen, those seats are taken." And they're like, "Are these guys drunk already? What's going on here?" And then they were like, oh, he's just, he's a stuck-up athlete, and he wasn't. And I asked him, he goes, those seats are taken. He goes, I take my alter ego. I take all of me everywhere, and they have to come because they are so integral part of me knowing who I am, how to win. They understand me better than everybody else. They're my flaws. They're my insecurities. They're my egos. I need them to be with me all the time. And a lot of people leave the best part of themselves behind. They try to put the best part of them, their competitive side, the stuff that allows them to push through everything. Those are the things they hide in the closet because they don't want people to see those because it doesn't look good. And that's what you need. I always say all of our flaws are our greatest gifts, and we all have them. It's what allows us to be different. And in order to win, winning makes you different. It makes you stand out. Don't your flaws make you stand out? Don't your insecurities, don't your fears, don't your anxieties? Those are all part of human nature. How do you use them to your advantage? And that's what your dark side teaches you to be, hey, this is a part of me. Let me acknowledge it. Let me bring it wherever I go and not be afraid to show it and make sure I can control it.
And he actually has a chair for the ego and gives it a drink?
He had yes, we had 2 chairs and he had a drink. Now, the drinking part was when we left, I said, I can't leave these drinks here. So I took a quick shot of both of them before we walked out.
That's hilarious. That is so wild. It's such a crazy story. I thought that would just be cool to tell. How do we, that dark side then, right? For anyone here who's not an athlete, and is working, 9 to 5, or is an entrepreneur, or is in real estate, if you're following me for real estate, how do we take that dark side and apply it to business success? Like, how am I talk about ego a lot, and I talk about how it, fuel, that fuel for the fire. But how can everyone else who's listening kind of understand that story and apply it to their own life?
Well, I take a look at it. Listen, life that nobody knows anything about, or is going through something. Now, you can use that as something that holds you back, or you can use it to fuel you. I give an example. You have a lot of individuals that are raised in broken homes. They may have no parents, or they may have only one parent. Now, a lot of individuals use that as a victim's mentality. They use that as an excuse. Oh, I had a broken home. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. And people comfort them with it and so forth. And then you have the other individuals. They're like, watch me. So the same situation, maybe in different homes, but they say, watch me. They use that dark side to fuel them to get whatever success means to them, whatever winning means to them. For some, obviously, it's about the financial gains, but for others, it could be raising their kids. It could be the charity things that they're that they're involved in. It could be, teaching. It could be in teaching, making sure no student gets left behind. It's knowing what's inside of you and trusting your instincts and saying, hey, this is a part of me. This is a part that fuels me. This is a part that powers me to keep me going when nothing else won't. When these battlefields are going on in your mind, when everybody's telling you, listen, you can't do this. This costs too much. You're wasting your time. If you start to let that thing win, your dark side is the thing that says, no, I'm going to stay focused. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to give everything that I have. Your dark side will not lie to you. You will lie to yourself. But when you're in your dark side by yourself, and this will happen a lot, not when you get your win. Think about the deals that you didn't get. And when you sit in a room alone and you have a chance to be truthful with yourself, and you sit down and you're like, what could I have done better? Or what didn't I do to my fullest extent that I didn't get this deal? That's your dark side telling you the truth. And the reason people hide it, because they don't want to know the truth. They want people to tell them everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be fine. I guarantee you one thing, Ryan, you never settle for okay. You never settle for fine. That's entry level. And nobody should settle for okay. Nobody should settle for fine.
Yeah, I've always said I'm not okay with being okay.
Yeah.
And it's it's been a part of like, okay, well, why, why try harder, right? Why work more? Why do more? Why make those extra 5 calls today? Why do that extra lead generation? Why go to that extra appointment? Why stay at the office an extra half hour? It's because I'm not okay with being okay.
And my question to you would be, why not?
Yeah. It's like people who climb.
Like,
it's like people who climb mountains, right? It's like, why'd you climb Mount Everest? Like, because it's there. Right? Isn't that the classic answer? Because it's there, needed to be climbed, and I could. So why not?
Why not? Yeah, you're asking why, and I'm like, why not?
How can people? The last question I have for you, because something that I talk to our agents about, and we have a large what, and this is how people are going to know you by, and you talk a lot about that and differentiating yourself as a way to kind of have that winning mindset. Can you just I think it'd be a good place for us to kind of leave everybody with a great nugget of how do people differentiate themselves and find ways to stand out in a sea of other people that they may think are just like them. Like, what makes me different? Nothing. I'm just like everybody else.
Well, first, be yourself. All right. Have your own style. Have your own style. Now, everybody on your team, they can have their own style, but their team has to have one identity. It has to be one identity. That's the most important thing. You can have your own style and have your own identity.
Yeah.
Always portray confidence. So every time you lose a deal, every time you don't get a deal, that's actually how you gain more confidence. You don't gain confidence from your wins. You gain confidence from your losses. So how do you make yourself different? Every time you fail, are you coming back a different person? I have this thing about saying, all right, if you fail, you get knocked down and you lose. Everybody says, jump right back up. I totally disagree with that. I always say, stay down there for a minute. Find out why you got knocked down, why you failed, why you didn't get that deal. Then stand up, because when you stand up that way, you're going to stand up a different person. You're going to stand up stronger. Then you get when you knock down, you get failed again, you're going to stand up smarter. You get knocked down and failed again, you're going to stand up more resilient. That portrays true confidence. That's how you separate yourself. And also, do the homework. Know your product. Know it better than anybody else.